All right. Well, aloha, beautiful beings of light. Rick Ely, the breath of Eli. Good afternoon. So, in a few moments, my special guest, Dusty Staub, aka Shine, will be joining us. And we just spent the last 15 minutes trying to do some testing. Trying to do some testing while we were, hey, Melissa, in the private group, guest speakers expanding. And that was so hopefully we're going to be able to go live with Dusty Staub. I've tagged him in the video and he should be showing up anytime soon and we'll get the party started. So Dusty, I had the pleasure and the honor of spending about 7 days with Dusty at a retreat in Ireland that was co-facilitated by my friend Brandon Bozarth and Dusty, another Cleo from Ireland. So some amazing, beautiful beings of light that were there in Ireland, getting to spend 7 days with this man. He kicked my butt in yoga, and he's got this combination of yoga, Pilates, and Aikido. And the dude's 70 years old, and he kicked my butt. And I could not keep up with him. That is the truth. So just waiting for him to show up. Hopefully he'll be able to jump on with us, and we will dive deep into the heart-centered leadership, what that's all about. And so hey, Dusty's there. All right, there we go. Come on, Dusty. Let's see what we got here. Melissa, I see you there. Thanks for tuning in, Melissa. I know you got all kinds of things you could be doing today, and here you are tuning in to me. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think you'll really appreciate Dusty. Several books, The 7 Acts of Courage. In fact, I should have probably grabbed all of his books. I have them. Let's see if that's Dusty, if he's showing up. It's a good day for a good day. Thank you all for tuning in. So yeah, some of the questions that let's see if I can get some of the questions I got lined up for Dusty as we prepare. I think he's going to be, might as well get myself all dialed in while we're having other people join and come on board. Okay, see Melissa there. Dusty has, he's been running an organization called Staub Leadership. Hey, Dusty. Cool. There you are, my brother. I'm thinking that you have got, let's see if Ted Lemon. Hey, Ted, good to see you. Ted, Dusty wants to be in your video. Well, yes, of course. Approved. Oh, yeah. Now we're talking. Now we're going to be adding Dusty. See how excited I am? I get to spend time with my friend. Whoo!
All right.
Flip it around. Oh my gosh, Shine.
We did it.
We did it. We did it. Yay.
How you doing, Rick?
I'm about ready to take that deep breath, like we did at the retreat. Will you breathe with me?
Yeah.
Drop right into that heart-centered being that you are, my brother. I'm so honored to share space with you. Like I was telling the guests earlier, what I'm going to do really quick, Shine, is I'm going to go ahead and share this into my page, The Breath of Eli. And feel free as you're tuning in to share this into other groups if you'd like those to see this. Dusty is a plethora of wisdom on heart-centered leadership. He's been doing this for quite some time. He goes around the country teaching the C-suites of corporations heart-centered leadership, and he's going to tell us what that means. He's going to give us a little bit of a deep dive. I can tell you this man is truly in tune with the divine feminine. And when I say that, I honor his wife, Christine, they've been married now for 31 years.
Yeah.
Just an incredible. I had the privilege of spending 7 days with Sean in this retreat, 12 hours a day and plus. So I just feel really truly connected, and I'm excited for our interview. So I'm going to go ahead and share this to my page.
All right.
And feel free to dive in and introduce yourself while I'm doing that. And if you want, maybe I should teach you how to share it on your page so that it's live on your page.
I'm afraid of losing you. I'm afraid to do anything at this point.
That's okay. We don't have to do anything more than that. We're good. I'm just going to take the time to share this because I know we'll get a lot more traction, and people really need to hear what you have to say. Hey, Mike Chavez, my brother from another mother. Thank you for tuning in. Mike Chavez, if you guys are not aware, Mike has Live Masters TV. Mike teaches people how to go live. He's been doing this now for a couple of years straight, hasn't missed a day. Talk about a heart-centered leader. That's my boy, that's my man, Mr. Mike Chavez. I love you. Thank you for tuning in, and feel free to share it wherever you want to share it. I'm going to go ahead and get this over to my page, The Breath of Eli. And that way, we're there. Okay. I'm done. Now you got my complete undivided attention, Dusty. Shine.
So where would you like to start, Rick?
Well, please forgive me, but you're 7 years old. You don't look a day over. You don't look a day over 50, and you've been.
I just for that alone, I really like you, my friend. But I'm 69. Turned 69 in January. I'll be 70 this coming January. And I've been doing yoga for 47 years, every morning. And the breathing and the yoga. And you've done yoga with me, so I do a fairly intensive routine.
I couldn't keep up with you.
I know.
I could not keep up with you. It was a combination of yoga, Aikido, and Pilates, and I could not do all the exercises that you were doing. I had to I capitulated. What can I say?
Well, it's a synthesis, and my approach to leadership is a synthesis of what I think is some of the best thinking out there. Where I think I'm number one in the world at is focusing on wholehearted leading, and I don't think anybody has a holistic, integrated framework for understanding leadership. Having read now 600 books on leadership, having scanned all the articles, having read 500 or 600 biographies and autobiographies, I really created a framework that I think makes sense, that's integrated and whole. And I think the world's really hungry for a more wholehearted approach to leading. And that's what I was sharing with you folks with the 6 days when we were at Delphi in Ireland, up in the Connemara Mountains. And it's what I want to get out into the larger world, this sense of there is a better way, there's a more holistic way, there's a more wholehearted way of leading. And people are hungry for it. They're desperate for it.
I couldn't agree more. I think and this is just where I'm at, coming out from a corporate background in real estate and development. People are they're tired. They're on the hamster wheel and they're out of breath. Yeah, they're out of breath, and it's it's all about the dollar. It's all about, okay, you have a completely different approach to life and to leadership. You've written several books now, and I'm just going to go to my notes, and because I experienced some major shifts inside the retreat. And that was only because I felt safe. It was an environment where it was hey, Jennifer, hey, Jason, thanks for tuning in. It was an environment that I felt really connected and very safe. And so what was facilitated was a small group participation in a really deep dive where
Yeah.
in the beginning it was, making the connection and then feeling safe and then actually diving in and letting go of some stuff. Whew. And then you were there and everybody else was there to support one another in that. But part of this, you had some formulas, you had some thought, and even though some of this stuff was all new and fresh for you, you incorporated all
Yeah.
of your learnings, all of your teachings into something new and fresh. And I got to tell you that the the age group that was there, I mean, I was probably the oldest one next to you. These were younger people.
Yeah.
These were millennials that are hungry for this,
Yeah.
you know, this next step. And we took it what we called the edge.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping maybe you can expand on what the edge really is.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with the great poet David White, who says that all transformation takes place at the edge of who we are, the edge of what we know. And if we really want to grow, and oh gosh, the only game in town is transformation, is being our best self, continually evolving, continually growing and developing. We have to go to the edge of who we are, the edge of what we know. And to go to the edge requires heart. It requires courage. And something that I formulated about 30 years ago is that leadership is based on the tone and quality of your heart. And when I talk about heart, I'm not talking about just the pump. I'm talking about the nervous system that's built into the heart, the intelligence of the heart that helps inform the head. And until we come back, I believe the heart is the integrative center of our age. And I believe that Ireland is really kind of the heart of the world. If we can reconnect to some of the Celtic wisdom and some of the ideas that we are shapers of our world, that we are in a landscape of sacred shapes, that we are a sacred shape, and as we shape, we are shaped. And so we become shapers of ourselves even as we shape our friends and family. And if we do that from our head, we do it from only one kind of intelligence. When we do it from our heart, we're informed by an emotional intelligence that's much deeper and richer and older, and that feeds us on a cellular level. The Chinese had a formulation of three minds: the belly mind, the heart mind, and the head mind. And the ancient Celts called it the cauldrons: the fire in the belly, the fire in the heart, and the fire in the head. What I'm really about is helping the fire in the heart to be informed by the fire in the belly, and for those to inform the head so that the head is in service to the heart. And when leadership is in service to the heart, you get higher levels of engagement, you get a more purposeful organization, you get a vision that creates future pull, you get people highly engaged and more entrepreneurial and more innovative, you get better performance. The CEOs and senior leaders don't bring me or my team into organizations because they think it's a great idea. They bring us in because they become more profitable, more robust, more resilient, more effective when people turn on, when people become engaged, when people learn. And it's the right thing to do. So the funny thing is, you do the right thing, you actually get a huge benefit when you start to open up the heart. And yet many organizations aren't ready for this. They're afraid of emotions because they don't understand it. It's that weird psyche-logical. It's not the logic of numbers. It's not the logic of machines. That's psyche logic, you know. And the psyche logic is difficult. It's challenging. It means we have to go to the edge. And many leaders will not go to the edge. And so they start to shut down the transformational energy of their organizations. They shut down the innovation. They shut down the creativity. They shut down the people. They get lower levels of engagement. And they wonder why when they're pulling all the right levers, but they haven't really stepped forward nakedly, vulnerably, to be their best self and inviting people to be their best selves. And that takes courage. And not many people are up for it just yet. And yet, until you take that step, until you go to the edge, until you stand at the edge, and you invite other people to stand at the edge with you, with a little bit of courage, a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of support, nothing really changes. Nothing really moves forward.
What allowed me to be vulnerable, what allowed me to walk to that edge with you in the process of this, the retreat, was your own vulnerability. was your own willingness to be seen, to be naked, to be, and I mean, we didn't get naked. We didn't get naked, but
Thank you
I
for
mean,
that.
emotion, emotionally naked. I mean, this is the real stuff, man. I mean, the emotions, so many people are afraid to show, especially men, right? Especially men in, oftentimes men in leadership are very much afraid to show that, you know. Now, can you talk about the importance of emotion and integration?
Yeah. Um, One of the things that came out of trait theory, a great breakthrough, was this whole idea of emotional intelligence. And Daniel Goleman was the psychologist who wrote the first book called Emotional Intelligence. And the idea is emotional intelligence. We've measured one kind of intelligence, which is intellectual quotient, which is analytical ability, problem solving, technical knowledge, strategic thinking, all the stuff you think you need for business. And yet, leadership is 75% emotional intelligence, only 25% how smart you are.
Mm.
So what a lot of organizations found out is they've hired really smart people who can't work well with other people. Really smart people who don't take critical feedback and get defensive. Really smart people who
Mm.
are on an ego trip. Really smart people who don't know how to collaborate. Really smart people who do really stupid things. And the way you think about it is your IQ is like your CPU, your central processing unit. And you might have a genius CPU, or you might have an old Atari, kind of like me. So you have a genius CPU, you have, a so-so average CPU. However, the software package, the EQ is your software package. It determines how you use that CPU. So if your software package is all about get them before they get you, dog eat dog, um, the, the second place is the first loser, all those very clever sayings that are really off the mark. If that's your package, then with great intelligence, you will make the same mistakes over and over and over again. Like the executive I worked with who had been married 9 times. And I said, what was the problem? He said, well, I couldn't find a good one. And I said, well, what was the
Mm.
one common factor in all those marriages? And he said, well, they were all different. I said, no, who was the person who showed up at every wedding ceremony? He said, me. I said, bingo. So it
Mm.
was the software package. It's the way we've got the world figured out. And I do believe, Rick, everybody's doing the best they can based on how they got it figured out. And the job of parents, the job of friends, the job of lovers, of spouses, of leaders, is to help ourselves figure it out better, help other people figure it out better. And as we figure it out better, we'll do better. Because nobody wants to lose. Nobody wants to be unloved. Nobody wants to act stupid. It's that
Mm.
emotional intelligence, that software package. If I don't change that, and the only way to change it is to go to the heart, because you won't change it head to head. Logic won't do it. You got to go into the psyche logic, and you got to go into that messy stuff called emotions. And it's our fear of emotions in our society that really gets in trouble. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist, said it well. He said, modern men and women worship at the feet of the goddess of reason, and they've forgotten there are many other gods and goddesses. They've forgotten there are many other aspects to being alive, like love, like dealing with
Mm.
fear. Fear is like Saturn. If you look at astrology, Saturn is you have to show courage to be able to move through a Saturn return. And while
Mm.
Jupiter is the jubilant planet, the one that gives you energy. And I have a lot of Saturn return and a lot of Jupiter in me, which keeps me grounded and yet at the same time uplifting and uplifted. And courage is really absolutely essential. And I think you got to break courage into different acts because everybody's got courage or you wouldn't be alive. However,
Mm.
we're not all strong in all key 8 acts of courage. And there are 8 different acts of courage that we could learn that build on that emotional intelligence, that build that EQ factor. So when you look at leadership, it's not just how smart you are and it's going to be how you use that. And that's going to be informed by the emotional intelligence, how comfortable you are with emotions, how easy and accessible, how vulnerable you're willing to be, how willing you are to confront, how courageous you are about being confronted, how willing you are to let go of the need to be right. And I'm a recovering writeaholic. I'll hold my hand up. Um, my wife has a little electronic device she uses to little dog collar she puts on once in a while, and she'll shock me when I start pontificating, which I can do if I'm not careful. So when I look at it, I would say emotional intelligence is the key to this. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you just threw me off with the dog collar and shock thing. I'm just imagining you with the dog collar, and I'm going, wait a minute, you must like that or something. But no,
No, no,
but
no, no. It's a corrective mechanism she uses. It's actually for her. It's just one quick glance, and she goes, Dusty. I go, okay, yes, sweetheart, I got it.
I've held your wife in my arms and given her an incredible hug and received her love. I mean, she's a beautiful being of light. I'm grateful, and I know, yeah, she's just very tender, very true.
Yeah,
And the love that you hold for her is quite magnificent. So just seeing you two in action is I just that picture, the dog collar thing, just threw me off. Please forgive me. Thank
that's
you.
it.
I love you.
It's the fact is we've been married 31 years, and she's a very strong person. She's a physician, and she's the oldest of three. I'm the oldest of six. I run
You
my own
both are
business.
firstborn. You
Yes.
both
Oh,
are
yes.
firstborn. Oh
Yeah,
man, heads from butt heads.
we're both used to being in charge. And
Oh,
so as we were being interviewed um, on a radio show, and she said, oh, it's like being on the same boat and really setting direction. And then I had to interject, yes, but it's like having two captains with two different ideas of where they should go on the same boat, and having to then negotiate who's steering and how fast are we going to go and where are we going to stop. And so it's been a period of a series of negotiations over 31 years as we learn to really lead and be led and how to follow gracefully. And Christine has upgraded my emotional intelligence package quite a bit as she's helped me expand and open my heart. And I'm just very fortunate.
yeah, this went in a direction that I didn't intend, and of course, this is all unscripted. We just go in the flow, and so I'm gonna just ask you off the cuff, how do you get to that place, Dusty? How did you get to that place where you've got, look, I've been married 20 years, almost 20 years coming up in August,
Yeah.
and my wife and I are both firstborn. And there are moments. I mean, there are times I've expressed these things to you, and in our group, we had a private conversation about these things. And that firstborn, being firstborn, I mean, you're a born leader. You're
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
you want to drive the ship. So how in the world do you do that? Have you gotten to that place where I'm sure there's many things, but
Yeah. It's a great question. I'm the oldest of six, and I'm an Army brat. I was in 10 different schools, first 10 years of schooling. So that was a lot of flexibility, a lot of learning. And my father, I was the man of the house when he was gone, which meant I was in charge, so-called, so in charge. Christine is the oldest of three. She's first generation from Austria and Germany, so very Germanic kind of family. So we have a lot of structure and a lot of order, and we just had to learn to fight with each other well, how to fight and negotiate in a way that is loving and caring and supportive of each other. That I'd say that learning to fight well, learning how to express your opinion in a way that doesn't make the other person wrong for theirs, how to hear them and really seek to understand. So interactive listening, I don't call it active listening, it's very interactive listening, asking powerful questions, really seeking to understand. And a couple of psychologists, Margaret and Jordan Paul, years ago, they were marital family therapists, uh, came up with a concept that I really like. And that concept was, when you're in conflict, you have a choice. And you only have one choice, to either protect or to explore. If I choose to protect, that means I defend, I argue, I find fault with, or I yell, I withdraw, I shut down, I just don't show up. Exploring means, gosh, this doesn't feel good. This is going to the edge, by the way. This doesn't feel good. I don't feel happy here. I don't like this. I want to run away. Instead, I want to seek to understand. Gosh, I'm really hurt. I'm really angry. I want to attack. Instead, I'm going to take a deep breath and I want to seek to understand. So I want to explore. And every time we explore, what happens is we optimize, we connect, we learn, we grow. There's a transformation. And every time we protect, we shut down, we suboptimize, we close our hearts. So it's really a choice. You have one choice. Am I going to protect or am I going to explore? And what I think you experienced from my understanding with you and your love, beloved, was you chose to explore rather than to protect. And that was some of the breakthroughs occurring for you. And every time we choose to explore, it takes courage. It takes courage to get out of the need to be right, out of the courage to defend myself. By the way, every time we start to defend, I like the Course in Miracles on this one, every time we defend, we've already lost. Every time we defend, we're proving the other person right and ourselves wrong. We're off the path. And in my defenselessness lies my true defense, says the Course in Miracles. And I agree with that. I think that the best thing to learn in a marriage is to quit defending, start exploring, continue to push the boundary. And what's happened is in 31, soon to be 32 years of marriage, we've had 32 marriages. Because she keeps exploring, I keep exploring. And at those moments, and there have been about 4 of them, where we could have chosen to go separate ways, for the marriage to dissolve. In those moments, we continue to choose to turn back to each other and to explore rather than protect. Because leaving can be a big form of protection. Staying and shutting down can be a form of protection. But staying and being open and exploring and saying, does this marriage, is it going to survive? The marriage, the way it's been, cannot continue. The old marriage is dead. Are we going to create a new one? And I think we have to create new marriages, new relationships. It's the same thing in a business. The old business is dead. What's the new business going to be? And it's that edge, that transformational edge, which takes courage. And there are tools and processes, of course, we've developed that you can use. And there are lots of tools and processes out there. But without that presence, without that courage, that willingness to explore, to go beyond the edge, to quit protecting ourselves, nothing really changes, my friend.
Yeah, I instantly went down into my heart center and felt felt that openness. It is vulnerable. There is no protection there. It's like, okay, just rip my heart open. If that's, I'm here. I'm in love. I'm in compassion. I'm in that place. There's no. You're defenseless at that moment. But what I've found, and this applies to one of the greatest teachings that I learned in the retreat with you, was an exercise we did on where I was falling short.
Right.
In the acts of courage. And it really helped me to evaluate, okay, how am I showing up? And this applies to business, applies to life, applies to marriage. Everything that you're teaching applies to all aspects of life. It's holistic, right?
Yes.
Everything is holistic. So everything applies in all aspects, which is, there's no better way to be at this moment. In my mind, I can't. We want to, as men, we want to compartmentalize things. We want to put them in their little box and say, okay, this is this, and we'll deal with this later. But, and I often say, like, women have like spaghetti, right? It's all just, everything's connected. They totally know everything is connected.
Yes.
And as we wake up, as men wake up, we realize too that everything is really connected. It is energetically. There was another process that you had facilitated, was IBR.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. There's a tool that we developed about 18 years ago. George Bernard Shaw, the great.
Hey, John. Hey, Kristen.
The George Bernard. Go ahead. George Bernard Shaw. George Bernard Shaw, the great Irish playwright, said the biggest problem with communication is the illusion it has occurred. And so the biggest problem with communication is we know what we meant, what was received is the real communication, and we have no idea what's received unless we check it out. So the genius of intent behavior result is it is a simple framework for helping you navigate the complexity of human communication and the human mind. And recently, neurophysiologists have pointed out that we have 5 times the circuits in our brain for noticing what's wrong than what's right. So we're 5 times more likely to go negative or critical when asked to make a change or when something happens that we don't quite understand that doesn't feel comfortable. So what intent behavior result is about creating a pathway or a framework for you to have a more positive reaction from somebody to even a very tough or critical message that's being delivered. So what IBR stands for is intent. The I is intent. Do you clarify your intention? Can you say it in 2 or 3 short, positive, directional sentences that here's my intent, here's what I want to create, that is connected to the person so that they can understand that what you're getting ready to do gives their mind a mindset, a pathway to go down that is more positive than negative. And if you don't, people will make up intent because you can't read anybody's mind. I'm going to prove that. I'm thinking something very hard right now. Rick, what am I thinking about?
I have no idea.
You can see, yeah, good. You're a smart man. I was thinking of a 6'6" rabbit drinking a martini. The movie Harvey with Jimmy Stewart and the puka, right? The Irish magical creature that was there. And basically nobody can, I've done this with 10,000 people. Nobody's been able to read my mind. Nobody gets it right. So when we interpret people's behavior, we're making things up and we take it as gospel because we don't argue with our own thoughts usually. We typically can become hypnotized by them. So intent means, let me check it out. Rick, what did you mean when you said bang, 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 bang? Could you help me understand? Rick, what were you trying to accomplish when you did X, Y, Z? Instead of assuming it, check it out. And so we say, always assume positive intent. Always assume there's a positive intent. Even with egregious behavior, check it out. And when you're communicating with somebody, take the time to think about the message you want to convey. What's the positive intent? And can you communicate it in a short, directional way? No more than 3 sentences. That's the intent. That's hard, very hard to do. And what most leaders, most people in marriages do, most husbands, most wives, and parents and friends do is we take shortcuts. We make assumptions about intent. We don't share our intent. We go right to the behavior. Behavior is the second big one. It's the B, it's behavior. Behavior is measurable. You cannot not behave. It's a behavioral maxim. You cannot not behave. You behave. And everybody can see it. You're in the room or not. You were on time or not. You smiled or not. You responded. You stuttered. You whatever it was. You behaved. And people see that behavior. And they interpret behavior because they can't read your mind. That's why you want to control the intent or the mindset. And that's why you want to check it out. Because all you do is see behavior. Now, and based on how we've got things figured out, some people behave in some pretty bizarre ways. I'll give you a very bizarre behavior. You want people to like you, all right? You want people to think you're smart, and you want people to want to be around you. So you have to prove how smart you are by using big, fancy words. You have to correct everybody's grammar. You have to win every argument, right? Now, does that influence people or win people over? No. Nor does it lead to loving relationships with people in your life, especially a woman. Yeah, that was me when I was 28. I had figured out that I had to prove how smart I was, that if I lost an argument, it would prove I was stupid, wasn't good enough, because I was running against a counter belief I'm not good enough, which I developed not being able to please the colonel as a youngster. And my own self-critical internal self-talk was causing me to behave in a way that was counterproductive to my true intent. Until a really good friend, a colleague, a co-therapist said to me, she said, Dusty, the few of us that actually like you in spite of your best attempts to get us to like you, which was very liberating because it blew my mind. It took me to the edge. Wait a minute. You like me, but most people don't like me, and all my effort and all the work I'm doing to get people to like me is actually getting in the way? Whoa. So it opened me up in some very big ways. And that's why sometimes the trauma that happens to us, the difficulties, the challenges, the disappointments, the heartbreak, are opportunities to go to our edge, to figure it out better, to figure out a new way. And that's where it takes compassion and courage, and it takes truth telling. And in my role, I tell truth to a lot of very big, wealthy CEOs, some with big egos. And if I can do it with compassion, without judgment, and I can lay it out, I can say very hard-hitting things. And the compassion and the tone, which is 85% of the communication, gets through, and they realize there's a better way. Just like that young co-therapist did with me when she said, the few of us who actually like you. So there are techniques and tools we can use behaviorally to help people realize their true intent. But behavior can be misleading because behavior always leads to results. So we talked about I, intention, B is behavior, R is result. Results are measurable. We got on this call or not. We were able to share that. People signed on or not, etc.
Yeah.
However, human beings can mask their results. So you can be talking to somebody who's smiling and nodding their head, and inside they're going, what an anal sphincter. What an anal sphincter, which is a technical term, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and you don't know because you can't read their mind. So the only way to really connect things is to ask somebody's intent or share your intent. Be clear about behavior. Check to see what results that behavior's gotten by asking, how are you feeling about that? What are you going to do with that? What's going to happen next? When will it happen? How will it happen? What can I do to help? How can I deliver this message more effectively? Was there anything in the way I did this that was offensive or difficult? What's the thing I did that was most effective? So by asking about behavior to make sure that my result matches my intent, I have integrity. And so we do this for coaching. We'll say, what was your intent? Okay, what was the result you got? Do they match? No. Okay, what do you need to change in your behavior? I had one executive say, well, I'm not the problem. It's that team. I said, so you're not going to change your behavior, but you want the team to behave differently? Yes. All right. Do you know what Einstein said about insanity? And he goes, no. Einstein said, definition of insanity is doing what you've always done and expecting a different result. So, and I said, do you know the definition of stupidity? And he goes, no, I don't know that. And says, well, the definition of stupidity is knowing the definition of insanity and still doing what you've always done and expecting a different result. Now, are you stupid? He said, no. I said, are you insane? No. Then what are you going to do different? Because if you don't change this behavior, you will not get a different result here.
And you said that with compassion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I said it slower, and I said it much more carefully. Yeah, I'm speaking quickly now. You can say it with compassion. It's because the guy wasn't stupid and he wasn't insane. He just didn't understand that if he wasn't willing to confront and speak his truth in a more respectful way, there was no way that team was going to change their behavior.
This brings us to that edge again, because the truth, we've got all of this definition of what truth really is. My truth, your truth, whose truth?
Yeah.
What's truth, Shine?
Well, truth is relative, right? And so let me go through the 8 acts of courage real quick.
Absolutely, please. Thank you.
The first act of courage, the courage is to dream and express the dream. And the reason we need courage to express our dream is because there's a lot of critics in the world. There's a lot of internet trolls. There are people that are creating, and there are people who are dreaming, and there are people who are attacking the creations and the dreams, right? It takes courage to put it out there. The courage to see current reality is the courage to see what's working for you and what's working against you. Some of us have trouble claiming all of our strengths. We have trouble seeing where we're strong. So we overdo our strengths, and that becomes an issue. Some of us have trouble seeing our weaknesses, the areas where we're not so strong, where we need to grow or improve. So the courage to see current reality is the courage to claim all my strengths, and it's the courage to see the areas where I need to grow and where I need to develop. It's not enough to dream and have current reality. Current reality is foundation, where I am. Dream is where I want to go. You now have to have the courage to confront, as the Quakers say, to tell truth to power. However, can you do it with compassion before you're angry? And why it takes courage to put it out there is because if you're truthful, you may be wrong. Your way of putting it together could be wrong, because no one knows the mind of God or goddess. No one has a patent on the great white light, as Bernard Gunther used to say. So the truth of the matter is, we have to seek our truth knowing we could be wrong. Yeah, this is my truth in the moment. Let me put it out there. And that means I have to have the courage to be confronted. The fourth act of courage is the courage to hear someone else's truth. It may not be the absolute truth. I may not agree with it, but can I explore versus protect? Going back to that choice point. When someone confronts you and gives you criticism, they're inviting you to join a conversation that's probably been going on for a while with other people. So you can either shut it down and intensify that conversation, or you can open it up and perhaps begin to make some shifts or changes in their perception, if not in your behavior of things. The fifth act of courage is the courage to learn and grow. It's the courage to give up the need to be right. As I said, I'm in recovery around being a rightaholic. And it's giving up I am in recovery. Sometimes I fall off the wagon. And it's also the willingness to step in the unknown, into ambiguity, to go to the edge, to go beyond the edge. The sixth act of courage, I wrote it back in the first hardback edition of the Acts of Courage. 7 Acts of Courage was the courage to be vulnerable. And that was back in 1994. And since then, there's been a beautiful TED Talk by Brene Brown on the power of vulnerability. And that's had millions of views. And when I first had it, I wrote it as a key act of courage, my publisher, which was Executive Excellence at the time, didn't want to put it in there because nobody wants to be vulnerable. And I said, well, without vulnerability, there is no true love, true connection, true joy in life, or true innovation. And Brené's research has really proven that out now, and it's out there in a big way. The seventh act is the courage to act. Here's the thing. If you act now with the dream, with the current reality, with confronting, being confronted, learning and growing, and being vulnerable, when you take action, you do it with greater wisdom. So here are acts that help you build your emotional intelligence, build that software package so that your CPU, which you can't really increase the power of that, you can increase its effectiveness, its efficiency, and the joyfulness and aliveness by how you put that together. Those acts of courage inform it. And then David Wiley, who's been a mentor and teacher of mine, David suggested there was an 8th act of courage that I need to put in. And the 8th act of courage is the courage to let go, to know when it's time to let go, to step away, to walk away, to release what you've been holding on to. And George Carlin did a wonderful routine about shit. Says, everybody talks, I got my shit together, you got your shit. I got a warehouse for my shit. We have so much stuff that we accumulate, so much stuff that we even have warehouses, and we have all these storage units now with all this extra stuff, that we become defined by our stuff, and we become human havings or human doings versus human beings. So I really think that emotional intelligence piece around the acts of courage, I do like the courage to let go, knowing when to let go. And it's actually informed by the other 7 acts too. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. I've read the book, and I had the privilege of spending the time with you. So I'm grateful that you can share this with the audience. Everybody's worthy of knowing these things. They've had a huge impact on my life. Just in the retreat, the opportunity to let go, to be vulnerable, to learn where I was coming up short in the actual action, right? I mean, and I took this test that you had put together. You provided so much more than I had anticipated in the retreat, and I know that you've got a whole lot more planned. You've yoked up with Brandon Bozarth,
Yep.
a dear friend, and you've put together this group called Ignite, and you've got some other stuff coming up. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your vision for that coming forward.
Yeah, it's Brandon Bozarth and Clena O'Hanlon,
Hmm.
Fitzgerald.
Yep.
The three of us have kind of called ourselves the Triple Spiral, which is a favorite symbol of mine from the Boyne River Valley at the Great Tomb of Newgrange. And the three of us have put together our hearts and our minds around this idea of igniting the heart and transforming, leading, and living. And the process that we are talking about is putting together the extensive coaching processes they've put together, life coaching and transformational work, with the work I've done mostly in corporations and with executive teams, which has been around transforming organizational life, transforming the way teams work together, building high performance teams. However, it's all based on this transformational energy. And so we've created some advanced leadership programs and advanced leadership processes for people that are really ready to go further. And we're laying out a base curriculum so that people can learn how to facilitate groups and facilitate learning processes, how to really facilitate and develop courage, I call it the Courage Quotient Index, or CQI. And we are looking at how do we create that more of an online university where people can take those courses, and then there'll be chances for coaching with one of the three of us or all three of us. There'll be online and there'll be in-person events that we'll work with. Like to go back to Delphi, to the Connemara Mountains in Ireland. We're talking about the West Coast. And one of the things we began to outline is getting groups of men and women together. Maybe a group of 20 or 30 men, 20 or 30 women, maybe couples or uncoupled, but together. And Ashley and Clena taking the women off and actually having them work for a day. Brandon and I taking the men off, working with them for a day, and then a day bringing them together. But the night between, a big fire and sitting around the fire and talking about women's wisdom, men's wisdom, where women have felt disempowered by men, where men feel disempowered by women, and what we can do to begin to change that, how to heal that. So it can be for couples, it can be for singles who want to figure out how they can couple in this world, for men how to relate better to men, for women how to relate better to women, and really understanding that diversity. And you said something about my being in service to the divine feminine, which is very much true. I think that until we begin thinking of the divine as much as a feminine presence as a masculine presence, we're way off the path. And all life comes through a woman. And the mystery of giving birth is something that really only a woman can truly appreciate or understand. And in other times and other places, women were held as great wisdom keepers, and they were held with a sense of reverence. And a man's role was that of helping protect and be in service to. And I think we need to figure that out, because we have toxic masculinity and we have toxic femininity going on, and we have a lot of misunderstandings between men and women can shame each other and can embarrass each other and can hurt each other very, very quickly. And men do it to men and women do it to women, and do it cross. So we think a lot of healing could take place there. So that's just one of the ideas for a program. And then setting up some sort of online presence where people can come in and tune in about, how do I help grow my emotional intelligence quotient? How do I feed my soul? How do I develop my courage quotient? How do I go to my edge? Where's my edge now? How can I continue to transform? Who can I join as brothers and sisters in that process? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And when you say online, it's not necessarily alone. Like right now, I know Brandon is over in England. He just landed. Him and Ashley just landed in England. They're doing another retreat, collaborating there in in England. I'm not sure who with, but I've had the privilege to to connect with them in a group setting on a
Yeah.
what's the format? You mentioned the
Video
format where we
chat?
can, yeah, it was like a video chat where, so you're actually creating community and connectivity, not
Yep.
online, like, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world, but you're creating connectivity where people, And you're also doing these things in the homes, from what I understand. It's
Yes. Well, Brandon had a brilliant download insight, which was the idea of cells. You know, communities of enlightened leadership and light, and the whole idea is that people would be a cell leader and have 9 to 10 people show up in their home every other week or once a month and be able to talk, to explore about issues of consciousness, where the boundaries are, where the edges are, what kind of support, how do they build their emotional intelligence, how do they help build their courage quotient index with each other, and providing some format for these people who are natural leaders or have some capacity for facilitation to help facilitate discussion, and just a support group, maybe sitting around a candle, maybe sitting around a fire outside, and having a chance to connect. And there are now, I think, 10 cell groups, and the vision is there'd be 100,000 cell groups, 100,000 cell leaders, and we'd be able to provide support to the cell leaders and to the cells, and out of the cells would come more cell leaders. And so you build a cellular network that actually is interconnected across the globe, and it becomes communities of light and enlightenment and support. I can sort of feel it even talking about it, that energetic that would be there, and that there would be hundreds of thousands of leaders and millions of people engaged in this process of building their courage, building positive relationships, being able to influence the world from a center of realizing you are a powerful being of light, and so is everyone else. Most people are unaware of it, and helping all of us wake up together. So that's part of the dream too. It's Brandon could talk about it much more eloquently than I could, and yet Clea and I both really buy into it and understand it. And Clea actually is a cell leader. She's running a cell with Neem Cronin in Ireland right now. I think there are 5 or 6 cells in Ireland.
Yeah, we were able to go pretty deep. I'm not even paying attention to time. I could get lost with you for, days. I think I already did. And I just wanted to look back at my notes, some of the questions I had for you. Oh, yeah, big question for you. How does one maintain an open heart?
That's a great question. I think the way you keep an open heart is, first of all, having humility to realize you can. And the second is to be curious. Are really, and I think favoring kindness. There's a wonderful line from the movie Harvey, Jimmy Stewart's old movie, Harvey. And he's asked by a man, he says, you're very kind, you're very nice to people. And he says, why is that, Mr. Dowd? It was Elwood P. Dowd. He says, well, my mother said to me, she said, Elwood, she used to call me Elwood. She said, Elwood, in this life you have to be oh so clever, or you have to be nice. For many, many years, I tried being oh so clever. I recommend nice. So for me, that means kindness. I think if I'm bringing kindness to myself, I was in Dublin at a talk by a tantric teacher, and she said something I really liked. She said, Tantra is really about being kind to each other in the bedroom. It's about being kind to our own bodies. It's about letting go of the shame of sexuality and being kind to the fact that we are sexual beings. It's being kind and showing kindness in the kitchen and showing kindness in life. And I really like that formulation. And I think for me, it's kindness, it's curiosity, it's humility, and it's continuing to go to the edge. How I have developed my heart is I grew up with a lot of fear. I was in 10 different schools. I got beat up a lot. I wasn't a warrior. I was a poet and a lover. And if I got beat up, my father would whip me for getting beat up and tell me to go back and kick tail. So I would hide the fact I got beaten up. And in 5th grade, I figured out that I could talk my way out of fights, that there was a way of dealing with bullies. I developed a strategy for dealing. I became a practical psychologist. And that helped build my heart. And then I've been fortunate enough to have strong women and strong men in my life, friends, lovers, wife, family, who keep challenging me, who keep helping me look at the places where my behavior doesn't match my true intent, and who also see the best in me and encourage that. So I think it's encouragement. I think it's kindness. I think it's humility. I think it is going to the edge and exercising courage. How you build your cardiovascular system, I like to call it the cardiovascular system of your soul, is you keep building your courage quotient index by addressing the act of courage you've least developed and putting yourself out there consistently to go to that edge and just continue to move. And I think that's how we build our heart.
You know, it's kind of a paradox. Most people think when you're courageous, like you're running into battle, you got to protect your heart. But what I hear you saying is be curious, you'll have an open heart. And so you're actually the courage, having the courage to just open yourself up to be vulnerable is really what's the worst thing that can happen, Dusty?
Well, you know, the worst that can happen is someone judges you. The worst that can happen is somebody rejects you. The worst that can happen is you made a mistake. The worst that can happen is somebody ridicules you. And that's more of a comment on them than on you. John Mayer has a wonderful song called Say, S-A-Y, Say. And say what you want to say. Say what you want to say. Even if your hands are trembling, even if your faith is broken, even as your eyes are closing, say what you want to say. The courage to express who we are, to speak our truth, like you do. The courage to speak our truth and put it out there, like Kalina does, like Brandon, like Joyous Heart, like myself, like Christine, my goddess. Putting it out there takes courage. And as we do it, we continue to develop and we continue to learn. And the worst that can happen is somebody rejects it, they don't want to hear it. That's fine. So I think that courage to put it out there, to say what we need to say, and to hear what other people need to say, and be curious about it, is how we begin to connect. We've got a world right now where if you look at Washington, D.C., people are throwing stones. People are finding fault. People are attacking people. And my grandmother, great emotional intelligence, great wisdom, Marcy Haynes, she said, Dusty, when someone acts like a pig, don't you act like one too, because one, you'll get filthy. Two, the pig will enjoy it. Three, you won't. You never go wrong taking the high road. Take the high road, Dusty, is what I'm telling you. Yeah, old Marcy Haynes, she was absolutely right. She was married at the age of 14, had 10 children. My mother was the 10th and last child. She became a midwife, delivered over 300 babies. Very wise woman. And so the other thing is humility. We stand on the shoulder of giants. Think about your parents, your grandparents. Think about all the people that sacrificed, that have led to be who you are today, right? And you begin to realize, you know, I get to do things my father didn't because he fought in 2 wars. He grew up in the Depression. I get to do more things than my mom because she gave us such unconditional love and support. So it's a matter of not being prideful, but a sense of, hey, I'm here because of a lot of people who paid it forward. My job is to pay it forward and remember to look back and see who I can help up on the journey. And when we do that, we all move forward in some great ways, right?
Yeah. I'm just thankful and grateful to be able to be in your presence, and thank you for sharing your practical application and your wealth of wisdom throughout the years. And thank you for maintaining an open heart. I got to say, it's a beautiful thing to witness in another man who has, you know, weathered the storm of life and has created an amazing, beautiful legacy. I mean, you're leaving the world. You've created a beautiful world. It's something very different than what you walked into or what you felt as a young man. You've managed to create a beautiful, compelling future. You have a vision for the future, and you lead with curiosity and compassion. And so, what else can I say? Thank you for being a way shower.
Thank
And
you.
yeah. And so if corporations want to seek you and have you teach them, or you want to find, Dusty's books, he's got several books out. I'll drop a link to his website here. Can they reach out to you, Shine, and for
Sure.
whatever? Okay.
Yeah, and it's some people are confused. In corporations, I'm known as Dusty. Robert Earl Staub is my legal name. Staub's a German word. Everybody knows me as Dusty. But about 12 years ago, I was given a spiritual name in an event. It's called Shines on the Earth. So people who know me really well, and in the advanced work we do, and really close friends call me Shine. So I've responded either. Yes, people can welcome to reach out to me. Got two websites, www.theactsofcourage.com, which is for everybody, and then business to business is www.staubleadership.com. And I've got 4 books out there that people can find out about. I would just say that I think that we're all in this together, and it's a matter of us continuing to be having the courage to explore rather than protect, giving up the need to defend, and really claiming our deepest heart. My purpose in life, and I ask every leader I work with to come up with this, Rick, my purpose in life is to come from my deepest heart and invite everyone I meet to come from theirs, so together we can be our best selves. And we work with individuals, we work with teams, we work with families, we work with communities, we work with organizations. So you don't have to be part of an organization if you want to take a deeper dive in either our advanced work or our basic core leadership work, or just for executive coaching. We do all that.
Complete just tuned in, and she says, hi, Rick. Hi, Shine. Aloha, Complete. Aloha, Stephanie. And, just before peeling out of here, if you've got a question for Dusty, please go ahead and put it in the comments now, and feel free to share this. If there are those of you that, you know somebody that needs to hear this information that Dusty shared today, please share the video. And thank you so much for giving us your presence, your time, which is the most precious thing that you could ever give another. So thank you for tuning in and listening. Thank you for caring enough about yourself to want to learn, to want to grow.
Yeah.
It's you are wonderful, you are beautiful, you are kind. You have everything you need already inside of you. You are already complete. There's nothing missing. You're perfect as you are. And if you're seeing Shine, if you're seeing Dusty, and you're recognizing the divinity, the wisdom within him, recognize that within yourself.
Yeah.
See that in you, because without being able to recognize that, you wouldn't see it, you wouldn't know it. But that is you. That is you. And I'm thankful for the reflection. And I love you. I love you with all my heart. So thank you, brother.
Love you too, Rick. Love you, and blessings on anybody who is attending to this. And hello, Complete. Love you.
All right. Aloha.
Aloha. Bye-bye.